This is my assignment for week 12. In this assignment, we have to create a full CRUD application using an API or JSON server. And here are instructions. Use jQuery or Ajax to interact with the API. Use a form to post new entities. Build a way for users to update or delete entities. Include a way to get entities from the API. Use Bootstrap and CSS to style your project. Here's my project. It has HTML, JavaScript, and CSS files. Let's start from HTML. Here I have a navbar, images. I have a form and a footer and script. JavaScript. It starts with a class house. The constructor sets up the initial state of a house object. It assigns a name to the house and prepares an empty array to store information. The addRoom method allows to add rooms to a specific house object. It takes the name and area of the room as parameters, creates a new room, and adds it to the rooms array. Inside the class room constructor, the two parameters are initialized. This name, which stores the name of the room, and this area, which stores the area of the room. Class house service is responsible for interacting with an external API to perform CRUD operations, create, read, update, and delete. Get all houses sends a GET request to the API URL to retrieve a list of all houses. Get house ID sends a GET request to the API URL with specific ID to retrieve details about a single house. Create house sends a post request to the API to create a new house by sending a house object as the request body. Update house sends a put request to the API with a specific house ID to update an existing house. Delayed house sends a delayed request to the API with a specific ID to delete a house. Class DOM manager is responsible for managing the user interface of the web application. It handles rendering and updating the user interface elements to display information about houses and their rooms, as well as responding to user interactions. Get all houses method calls house service get all houses method to fetch a list of all houses from the API. Then it calls the render method to display the houses and their rooms on the user interface. Create house method creates a new house, calls the house service create house method to create the new house. After creating the house, it fetches the updated list of houses and calls the render method to update the user interface with the latest list of houses. Delayed house ID method delays a house with a given ID via the API. After deleting the house, it fetches the updated list of houses and calls the render method to update the user interface. Add room ID method adds a new room to a house with a given ID. Retrieves the input values for the room's name and area from the corresponding input fields. Calls the house service update house method to update the house with the new room information. Fetches the update list of houses, and after the update calls the render houses method to update the user interface. Delete room house ID room ID method. Delete the room with a given room ID from the house with the given ID using splice method. Calls the house service update house method to update the house. Fetches the updated list of houses. Calls the render method to update the user interface. Render method renders the user interface based on the provided list of houses. Empties the content of the app element. For each house and each room, it generates HTML elements. To display house information, input fields for adding rooms and buttons for deleting houses and rooms. Event handling sets up an event handler for the create new house button and to call the create house method when clicked. And when you go to the browser, this is how it looks like. This is my navbar, images. Here is a form where a user can plan their house and rooms. Let's try. Create a house, then let's add a room. And area, let's one more. And user can delete it as well. And this is the form where user can enter their information and contact with the company. And that's it. Thank you. Bye-bye.